The Grand Assembly Station floated in space like a silver jewel. Inside its massive halls, hundreds of alien species gathered for another council meeting. The air hummed with translated voices as diplomats from across the galaxy discussed trade routes and planetary disputes. Ambassador Jisoo sat in the human section, her dark hair pulled back neatly. She had been Earth's voice to the council for 3 years now. Most species liked her. She was patient and kind, always willing to listen. The other ambassadors thought humans were soft creatures who cared too much about feelings and art. Captain Taewon stood beside his ship's window, watching the station grow larger as they approached. The Quiet Dawn was a diplomatic vessel, or so everyone believed. It carried art and music from Earth, gifts for alien cultures. Taewon smiled slightly at that thought. Everything humans showed the galaxy was true, just not complete. "Captain, we're receiving the council broadcast," Lieutenant Daeho said from his station. "The Krell Dominion has issued another ultimatum." Taewon's smile faded. The Krell were a problem. They were big, strong, and loved war. For years, they had pushed against council rules, testing boundaries. Most species were afraid of them. On the main screen, a Krell warlord appeared. His scales were dark red, and his eyes held nothing but contempt. "The sanctuary worlds belong to the Krell now," he announced. "The Lumerists are weak. They will serve us or die." Inside the council chambers, chaos erupted. The Lumerists were peaceful beings who glowed with soft light. They had no weapons, no armies. They made beautiful music and tended gardens that could feed entire systems. Everyone loved the Lumerists, but no one knew how to protect them. Counselor Vexter, an old alien with gray skin and too many eyes, spoke calmly. "We must discuss sanctions. Perhaps trade restrictions will force the Krell to reconsider." Other counselors agreed. They always agreed to talk more. Ambassador Jisoo sat quietly, listening. Her face showed nothing, but her hands gripped the armrests of her chair. The debate went on for hours. Species argued about laws and procedures. Meanwhile, on the view screens along the walls, everyone could see Krell warships entering Lumerous space. The ships were huge and covered in weapons. Dr. Shungmin, a human scientist who had lived with the Lumerists for 2 years, sent a desperate message to the council. His face appeared on every screen, tears running down his cheeks. Behind him, the sky glowed orange with fire. "They're bombing the settlements," he said, his voice breaking. "The Lumerists are singing their goodbye songs. They're singing to their children. Please, someone help them." The council fell silent. On the screens, they watched Lumerous families gather together. Their bodies glowed brighter as they sang, a last beautiful defiance before the bombs fell. The songs were heartbreaking, full of love and sorrow and acceptance. Counselor Vexter cleared his throat. "We must follow proper procedures. A response force takes time to authorize and deploy. Perhaps in a few weeks. No." The single word cut through the chamber like a blade. Everyone turned to look at Ambassador Jisoo. She stood slowly, her face calm but her eyes different somehow. Colder, ancient. "The Lumerists don't have weeks," Jisoo said quietly. "They don't have days. In a few hours, they will all be dead." "Ambassador, we understand your emotional response," Vexter said kindly. "Humans are known for their strong feelings. But we must act according to council law." Jisoo smiled, and several nearby counselors shifted uncomfortably. "Of course. And Earth will act according to human law. Our parliament voted 30 minutes ago." The decision was unanimous. Confusion rippled through the chamber. 30 minutes? Most species needed weeks to make military decisions. Humans were supposed to be emotional and slow, endlessly debating every choice. What decision? High Arbiter Quinmal asked. The Arbiter was the Council's leader, neutral and wise. "Earth has decided to respond to the Krell aggression," Jisoo said. "We are invoking our right to protect endangered species under Council Charter Section 7. We will be deploying our response fleet immediately." "Response fleet?" Baxter laughed. "Ambassador, humans are explorers and artists. You have no military. Your ships are full of music and paintings, not weapons." Jisoo looked at him for a long moment. "Yes, we wanted you to think that." She touched her communication device. "Captain Taewon, you are authorized to proceed. Rules of engagement are free and clear." Across the council station, Captain Taewon heard the authorization. He had been waiting for it, hoping he would never hear it. For 15 years, humanity had played a role in the galaxy. They had been the friendly species, the ones who brought gifts and asked questions. They had been very, very careful. "All ships, begin transformation," Taewon ordered. "Drop the masks. Show them what we really are." On the quiet dawn and 12 other human vessels, panels began to retract. What looked like cargo holds opened to reveal weapon batteries. Engines that seemed suitable for slow exploration suddenly flared with power meant for combat. Energy signatures spiked so high the council sensors started screaming warnings in the council chambers. Alarm klaxons blared. Every security system had activated at once. On the tactical displays, human ships were suddenly broadcasting power levels that shouldn't be possible. "What is happening?" Quinmol demanded. Jisoo touched the control, and every view screen in the chamber changed. Now they all showed live feeds from human ships. The council could see crew members moving with quick precision. They could hear the calm, efficient communications. "You wanted to know who we really are," Jisoo said softly. "You've asked us for years why we have no warrior culture, why we seem so peaceful. We told you we evolved past violence. That was partly true. We did evolve past violence. We chose to lock it away." On the screens, the human fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, heading for luminous space. "The Krall just reminded us why we locked it away," Jisoo continued. "They showed us that some things are worth unlocking it for. You don't hurt the innocent. You don't prey on the defenseless. You don't make children sing goodbye to their parents." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of dozens of alien species. "Keep your channels open, Council. Watch everything we do. You wanted to see who humanity really is. Now you will. And when this is over, you'll understand why we tried so hard to keep this part of us hidden." The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly into the battle zone around the luminous homeworld. Krell warships turned to face them, outnumbering the humans 3-1. Inside the council chambers, every ambassador leaned forward to watch. The Krell warlord's face appeared on the screens, laughing. "The soft ones have come to die." Lieutenant Daeho's voice came through clear and cold. "No, we've come to remind the galaxy what apex predators look like." The Krell fleet was massive. 40 warships surrounded the luminous homeworld, each one bristling with weapons and armor. They were built for war, tested in hundreds of battles. The Krell had conquered 12 systems in the last century. No species had ever stopped them once they decided to attack. 13 human ships faced them. In the council chambers, ambassadors watched the tactical displays in silence. The numbers didn't make sense. Even if human ships were armed, they were outnumbered and outgunned. This would be a massacre. Colonel Haijin commanded the human response fleet from her flagship, the Righteous Fury. She studied the Krell formation with cold eyes. They had spread out around the planet, probably to maximize bombing coverage. They weren't expecting a real fight. "All ships break into hunting packs," Haijin ordered. "Alpha Pack, you're with me. We take the command ship. Beta and Gamma split the flanks. Delta, screen the planet and evacuate any survivors you can reach." The human fleet split apart, moving with a precision that made council sensors recalculate multiple times. Ships that size shouldn't be able to accelerate that fast or turn that sharply. The G-forces alone should kill everyone inside. But humans had evolved on a heavy gravity world. Their bodies were dense, their bones nearly unbreakable compared to most species. What would liquefy a Krell pilot? Barely strained a human one. The first engagement lasted 4 seconds. 3 human ships dropped out of formation and curved around. A Krell heavy cruiser. They fired in perfect sequence, their weapons striking the same shield point repeatedly until it failed. The 4th shot punched through the hull, and the cruiser's reactor went critical dot. The council watched it explode, and nobody spoke. That was efficient. Councilor Vexter whispered. It got worse. The human ships moved like pack hunters, surrounding, isolating, and overwhelming enemy vessels. The Krell tried to respond with their traditional tactics, facing each threat head-on with superior firepower. But the humans wouldn't face them head-on. They struck from angles, retreated before counterattacks could land, and regrouped in seconds. Wing Commander Biora led the fighter squadrons. Her voice came through the council feeds, clear and excited. Target right. Target right. Nice shot, Hyan. I'm going after that destroyer. Someone cover my 6. Got your 6, Commander, another pilot responded. 3 boogies breaking left, moving to intercept. Let them come, Biora said, and the council heard her laugh. She was laughing during combat. They turned like cargo haulers. Easy prey. The human fighters swarmed like insects, but insects with purpose and intelligence. They covered each other, communicated constantly, and moved as if connected by invisible threads. When Krell fighters tried to engage, they found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned by pilots, who seemed to enjoy the challenge. Councilor Vexter stared at the screens. Look at them. They're having fun. It was true. The humans weren't grim or scared. They were focused, but also somehow alive in a way the council had never seen. They called out successful hits, warned each other of danger, and even joked between maneuvers. That's the 3rd one today, Day. Someone shouted. Only 3? Biora got 5 already. Lieutenant Deho responded. I need to catch up. Ambassador Jisoo stood in the council chamber, watching her species reveal themselves. A counselor from the peaceful Thren species approached her, his face showing confusion and fear. Ambassador, I don't understand. Your people write poetry. You make music. You cry at sad stories. How can you also be this? Jisoo didn't look away from the screens. We cry at sad stories because we understand suffering. We write poetry because we know loss. We make music because we need beauty to balance the darkness inside us. We are not 2 different species, Counselor. We are one species that learned to contain both. On the battlefield, Colonel Hyjin closed in on the Krell command ship. Warlord Thrakener had stopped laughing. His ship was powerful, but Hyjin had surrounded him with 7 human vessels, each one striking in rotation, never giving his shields time to recover. Defensive Pattern 12. The Krell commander shouted at his crew. All weapons, fire at will. The command ship unleashed everything it had. Space lit up with energy beams and missiles. It was enough firepower to destroy a moon. The human ships danced through it. They moved in 3 dimensions, using vertical and horizontal planes that the Krell rarely considered. They dropped below the enemy firing arc, rose above it, and struck from angles that seemed impossible. 2 missiles did hit human shields, but the ships barely slowed. Their shields are weakening, Hyjin said calmly. Focus fire on the bridge section. Let's end this. The human fleet concentrated their attack on one point. The Krell command ship's shields flashed, held, and then shattered. The next volley struck the bridge directly, but Hyjin didn't destroy the ship. She crippled it, taking out weapons and engines, but leaving life support intact. In the council chambers, several ambassadors noticed this detail She could have killed them all, someone observed. Why didn't she? Because we want prisoners, Jisoo said quietly. The Krell need to stand trial for what they did here. Death is too easy. On the planet below, human medical teams were already landing. Dr. Sung-min coordinated the rescue efforts, his earlier tears replaced by grim determination. Human soldiers moved through bombed settlements, searching for survivors with equipment that could detect life signs through rubble. A young human named Young-soo organized the relief supplies. He worked with quick efficiency, directing medical equipment, food, and shelter materials to where they were needed most. The council watched him comfort a lumorous child. The girl's glow dim with shock and grief. It's okay, Young-soo said gently. You're safe now. We've got you. The contrast was stunning. In space, humans fought with brutal efficiency, dismantling the Krell fleet with calculated violence. On the ground, those same humans moved with gentle care, treating wounded Lumorous with compassion and skill. Within 6 hours, the Krell fleet was destroyed or captured. 40 ships reduced to wreckage and prisoners. The human fleet had lost no vessels, though 3 had taken damage. Warlord Threckner sat in his damaged command ship, surrounded by dead crew members. His screen showed human marines boarding, moving through corridors with weapons ready. They advanced in teams of 4, covering every angle, communicating with hand signals and quick words. The Krell survivors tried to fight. They were bigger and stronger than humans. But the humans moved like they had invented close combat. They used the corridors to their advantage, negating the Krell size advantage. They threw weapons that exploded into nets, fired rounds that stuck to armor and delivered electric shocks, and fought with a coordination that seemed impossible. When the humans reached the bridge, Captain Taewon entered last. He looked at Threckner with cold eyes. You will stand trial for genocide, Taewon said. You will answer for every life you took today. The Krell do not recognize your authority, Threckner snarled. We are warriors. You are nothing. Taewon stepped closer. You're wrong. We are something. We are what happens when prey evolves into predators, and then those predators choose to build a civilization. We became something you never could. We became dangerous enough to choose peace. You chose war. You made children watch their parents die. Now you understand consequences. He turned to his marines. Take him to the brig. Make sure he sees the Lumorous survivors. I want him to look at what he did. Back in the council chambers, the ambassadors sat in stunned silence. They had just watched humanity dismantle one of the galaxy's most feared military powers in less than a day. Ambassador Jisoo's voice broke the silence. We're not finished. Every screen shifted to show human fleets converging from multiple directions. Ships that had been conducting scientific surveys, escorting trade convoys, and hosting cultural exchanges were all transforming. Weapons emerged from hidden compartments. Engines that had seemed adequate for civilian use suddenly burned with military-grade power. We gave the Krell a chance to stop, Jisoo said. They bombed refugees while we were still discussing terms. They laughed while children died. So now we will teach them, and anyone watching, what happens when you make humanity remember what we used to be. High Arbiter Quinmal stood. Ambassador, the Krell fleet here is destroyed. What more do you intend? Jisoo looked at the Arbiter without blinking. We intend to make sure this never happens again. We're going to Krell space. We're going to dismantle their military infrastructure. And we're going to show the galaxy that there are consequences for genocide. The chamber erupted in shouting. Species demanded explanations, called for votes, argued about council law. Through it all, Ambassador Jisoo stood calmly, waiting for them to finish. When the noise died down, she spoke again. You can debate all you want, but understand this humanity is done pretending. We tried to be the peaceful species you wanted us to be. We buried our nature and showed you our best face. The Krell revealed that this galaxy still needs predators. Just better ones. So that's what we'll be. The Krell Dominion had ruled their region of space for 400 years. They had never known defeat. Their homeworld was a fortress, surrounded by defense stations and protected by the strongest fleet in the sector. The humans arrived in force. 60 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Krell space. The Council watched through live feeds, still trying to understand what humanity had become in the span of a single day. Admiral J1 commanded the assault fleet from the Eternal Watcher. He was older than most human officers, with gray hair and scars that suggested a history the Council had never known about. He studied the tactical display of Krell defenses and nodded slowly. They built their entire system to face threats from one direction, he observed. Classic mistake. They think of war in 2 dimensions. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Krell High Command, his communications officer reported. They want to negotiate. J1's expression didn't change. Tell them we'll accept unconditional surrender. Complete disarmament, full access to their military records, and every officer involved in the Luminous attack handed over for trial. They have 1 hour to decide. The officer looked uncomfortable. Sir, they're not offering surrender. They're threatening us. They say they have planet-killer weapons and will use them if we advance. Then tell them to use those weapons if they dare, J1 said coldly. But remind them that we can track faster-than-light trajectories. If they fire a planet killer at anyone, we will know which ship launched it, and we will hunt down every crew member aboard. We will find their families. We will find everyone they love. And we will make them watch as we turn their entire species into a cautionary tale. The communications officer stared at him in shock. So did several council ambassadors watching the feed. In the council chambers. A counselor from the ethical Vreen species stood up, shaking. This is not justice. This is terrorism. You cannot threaten civilian populations. Ambassador Jisoo turned to face him. We won't touch their civilians unless they force us to. That's the difference between us and the Krell. But we will make them believe we might. Fear is a tool, counselor. Right now, the Krell need to be more afraid of us than we should be of them. The hour passed. Krell High Command did not surrender. Instead, they deployed their full fleet to face the humans. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration. The human fleet split into multiple attack groups, each one targeting a different defense station. They didn't approach head-on. They came from above and below the orbital plane. From angles the Krell hadn't fortified as heavily. Colonel Hygiene led the assault on Defense Station 7. Her ships moved in perfect coordination, disabling shield generators before the station could fully power them up. Human Marines breached the hull within minutes, moving through corridors with the same deadly efficiency they had shown before. The Council watched helmet camera feeds as human soldiers cleared rooms. They moved like water flowing around obstacles, each team member knowing exactly where the others were without needing to look. When Krell soldiers tried to ambush them, the humans reacted before the enemy could fire, their enhanced reflexes and constant communication making them nearly impossible to surprise. Contact, right, a Marine shouted. 3 humans instantly turned and fired. The Krell soldier fell before he could pull his trigger. Clear, moving forward. It was methodical, mechanical, perfect. Wing Commander. Ba'ora's fighter squadrons engaged the Krell fleet in open space. The Krell pilots were experienced and brave, but they were fighting an enemy they didn't understand. Human pilots pulled maneuvers that seemed to break physics, their ships spinning and diving in patterns that would kill anyone else. They're inside our minimum turn radius, a Krell squadron leader reported, panic creeping into his voice. I can't track them. They're too fast. They're His transmission ended as Bugmura's squadron erased his wing from existence. "That's 12 for me today," Biora announced cheerfully. "How's everyone else doing?" "8 here," another pilot responded. "Though I'm pretty sure you're showing off now, Commander." Bara laughed. "Maybe a little. But did you see that barrel roll? That was beautiful." In the council chambers, Councillor Vexter sat frozen in his seat. He had spent years believing humans were soft, emotional creatures who achieve spaceflight through luck and cooperation. He had been completely wrong. "They're not just winning," he whispered to the counselor beside him. "They're enjoying it. Look at their vital signs on the medical monitors. Their heart rates are elevated, but not from fear, from excitement. They're predators who finally get to hunt again." The counselor, a peaceful species who had never fought a war, looked ill. "How did we not see this?" "Because they didn't want us to," Vexter said. "They hid it perfectly. All those centuries of their history we studied, the art, the music, the philosophy, it was all real. But it was only half the picture. We saw the civilization they built and never looked for the foundation it was built on. Defense Station 7 fell. Then Station 3, then 9. The Krell fleet tried to regroup, but the humans had already adapted to every tactic they used. Human ships anticipated Krell formations and destroyed them before they could coordinate. Admiral J1 never raised his voice, never showed emotion. He simply gave orders, and his fleet executed them with precision that seemed impossible. The Council had seen military operations before, but never anything like this. Most species needed minutes to respond to changing battlefield conditions. The humans responded in seconds, sometimes before the Krell even finished making their move. "How are they predicting our tactics?" A Krell admiral demanded over an open channel. "How do they know what we'll do before we do it?" Colonel Hyjin answered him, her voice cold. "Because we've been studying warfare for thousands of years. You fight for honor and glory. We fought for survival. Every species we descended from that didn't learn to predict their prey's movements went extinct. You're not facing soldiers. You're facing the end result of 300,000 years of evolution selecting for the best hunters our planet could produce. The Krell tried everything. They used formation tactics that had won them dozens of battles. They deployed weapons that had destroyed other species' fleets. They fought with the courage and ferocity they were famous for. None of it mattered within 30 hours. The Krell home defense fleet was shattered. 20 defense stations were captured or destroyed. Krell High Command sat in their bunker beneath the capital city, watching their military collapse on every screen. "We need to surrender," one general said, "before they reach the planet." "Never," the Supreme Commander snarled. "We are Krell. We do not surrender to prey species." "They're not prey," the general said quietly. "That's what we didn't understand. They were never prey. They were the predators pretending to be something else." Human Marines landed on the Krell homeworld. The Council watched in stunned silence as they advanced on the capital. Krell ground forces tried to stop them, but it was like watching amateurs fight professionals. The humans used every piece of terrain to their advantage. They flanked, they ambushed, they used weapons designed to disable rather than kill, because they still wanted prisoners. They wanted justice, not just vengeance. Dr. Sungmin appeared on the council feeds from the Lumerous homeworld. He had been working non-stop to treat survivors and rebuild settlements. His face was exhausted, but his eyes were hard. "I want the council to understand something," he said. "I lived with the Lumerous for 2 years. I learned their songs, ate their food, taught their children about the stars. They were the kindest species I've ever known. The Krell killed 80% of their population in 12 hours. They bombed nurseries. They targeted hospitals. They made parents choose which children to save." His voice broke, but he continued. So, when you watch what humanity is doing to the Krell, remember what the Krell did first. Remember that we didn't want this. Remember that we gave them every chance to stop. And remember that every Krell soldier we capture alive is mercy they didn't show the Lumerous. Young-Soo appeared on another feed, still coordinating relief efforts. He had organized thousands of volunteers, human and alien both, to help rebuild Lumerous settlements. Food, medicine, and shelter materials poured in from human colony worlds. We can be both, Young-Soo said when a reporter asked him how humans could be so violent and so compassionate at the same time. We can rage against injustice and still comfort the victims. We can destroy an enemy military and still treat their wounded. That's what it means to be human. We contain multitudes. On the Krell homeworld, Admiral J1 accepted the surrender of Krell High Command personally. They signed documents that dissolved their military, turned over all weapons, and submitted to Council authority. Every officer involved in the Lumerous attack was arrested. The Supreme Commander spat at J1's feet. You think you've won? You'll regret showing the galaxy what you really are. They'll turn on you. They'll fear you. J1 looked at him without expression. Perhaps. But they'll also know that there are consequences for genocide. They'll know that the innocent have protectors. And they'll know that humanity keeps its promises. We promised to save the Lumerous. We were too late for most of them, but we saved who we could. We promised to punish those responsible. Here you stand. We keep our promises. Back in the council chambers, High Arbiter Quinn, for weeks after the Krell Dominion fell, the council gathered for a vote that would shape the galaxy's future. The question was simple. Should humanity remain in the council, or should they be expelled? But first, the council wanted answers. High Arbiter Quinmal stood at the center of the chamber, his ancient eyes tired. Ambassador Jisoo, please explain to this council how humanity managed to hide its true nature for 15 years. How did you fool every intelligence agency, every diplomatic observer, every species that studied your culture? Jisoo stood calmly. Behind her, Captain Taewon, Colonel Haijin, Dr. Sungmin, and Young-Soo waited as representatives of humanity's different faces. We didn't lie, Jisoo began. Everything we showed you was true. Our art is real. Our music is genuine. Our emotions are authentic. We do cry at sad stories. We do value peace. We do prefer cooperation over conflict. None of that was false. Then how? Counselor Vexter demanded. How can a species be both the peaceful artists we knew and the warriors we witnessed? Colonel Haijin stepped forward. May I answer that, Ambassador? Jisoo nodded. Hai-Jin faced the council, her military bearing evident. You need to understand human evolution. Evolution. Our species developed on a world with large predators and scarce resources. We survived by becoming better predators than anything that hunted us. We learned to track prey across continents. We developed endurance hunting. We chased animals until they collapsed from exhaustion, then killed them. We became the most successful hunters our planet had ever produced. She touched a control, and images appeared on the chamber's main screen. Ancient humans running across grasslands, tracking animals, working in coordinated groups. But here's what makes us unique, Haijin continued. We didn't just hunt animals. We eventually started hunting each other. For 10,000 years, we perfected warfare. We created weapons that could end our entire species. We nearly destroyed ourselves dozens of times. The images shifted to show human history wars, weapons, destruction. So we made a choice, Haijin said. We decided to evolve beyond violence. We built civilizations based on cooperation. We created art and music and philosophy. We developed empathy and compassion. We chose peace. But we never forgot what we were, Captain Taewon added, stepping forward. We couldn't forget. It's written in our instincts, our reflexes, every pattern of thought. So we trained ourselves to control it. Every human child learns to manage their aggressive instincts. We teach meditation, emotional regulation, and conflict resolution. We've spent 2 centuries building a culture that suppresses our predator nature. Dr. Sung-min spoke next, his voice gentle. And it works. Most humans go their entire lives without experiencing real violence. We genuinely prefer peace. We want to create, not destroy. We want to help, not hurt. Everything you saw from us for 15 years was our natural state, the civilization we chose to build. Then what changed? A counselor asked. You saw children being murdered, young Sue said quietly. You saw genocide happening in real time. And you did nothing. You debated and discussed while innocents died. That's when we realized something. He looked around the chamber. The galaxy needs protectors, not more talkers. You have plenty of species good at debate. What you don't have is anyone willing to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. Ambassador Jisoo took over again. For 300,000 years, we hunted. That instinct doesn't disappear just because we don't need it anymore. It waits, and when we see predators hurting the innocent, that instinct wakes up. The Krell woke it up. She pulled up footage from the luminous homeworld, children singing goodbye songs, families dying together. Dr. Sung-min weeping as he tried to save them. We had a choice in that moment, Jisoo said. We could stay peaceful and let them die, or we could remember what we used to be. We chose to remember. The council sat in silence. Finally, Councillor Vexter spoke. I owe humanity an apology. I called you soft. I thought your emphasis on emotions made you weak. I didn't understand that your emotions are what make you strong. You don't fight out of anger or hatred. You fight out of love and protection. Yes, Jisoo agreed. We don't hate the Crow. We pity them. They never evolved beyond violence. They're still stuck in the predator stage, unable to build anything lasting. We've grown past that. We can choose when to be predators and when to be builders. That choice is what makes us dangerous. High Arbiter Quinmal studied the humans carefully. What guarantee can you give us that you won't turn this violence on us? That you won't decide another species needs to be punished? None, Jisoo said bluntly. The chamber gasped. We can't guarantee that. We can only promise that we'll use the same criteria we used for the Crow. If a species commits genocide, if they prey on the helpless, if they refuse every diplomatic solution, then yes, we will stop them. Just like we stopped the Crow. That's too much power for one species, someone objected. Then balance us, Captain Taewon suggested. Create a council security force with representatives from multiple species. Give us oversight. Make us report our actions. But don't ask us to stand by and watch massacres happen. We can't do that. We won't do that. The debate continued for hours. Species argued about trust, power, and the balance of galactic peace. Some wanted humanity expelled. Others wanted them controlled. A few wanted them as protectors. Finally, a surprising voice spoke up. A luminous survivor, her glow dim but steady, addressed the council. My people are nearly extinct, she said, her voice carrying through the translation system. The Krell killed my family. They destroyed my world. But humans saved me. They fought to protect us, even though they barely knew us. They didn't ask what benefit they would get. They didn't calculate whether it was worth the cost. They simply acted. She looked around the chamber. You debate whether humans are too dangerous. I tell you, they are dangerous to those who harm the innocent. That's exactly what the galaxy needs. I vote they stay. Other survivors joined her. Species who had been threatened by the Krell spoke in humanity's favor. Even some former critics admitted that the galaxy was safer with humanity protecting it than without. When the final vote came, it was close but clear. Humanity would remain in the Council. More than that, they would be granted a permanent seat on the new Council Security Directorate. They would have authority to intervene in humanitarian crises without waiting for full Council approval. But there were conditions. Human military actions would be reviewed. Reports would be submitted. And humanity would help train a multi-species security force to ensure no single species held too much power. Ambassador Jisoo accepted the terms. We never wanted to be your military. We wanted to be your friends. But if being your friend means also being your protector, we'll accept that responsibility. As the session ended, Councillor Vexter approached Jisoo privately. I have one more question. Were you prepared for this outcome? Did you plan for the galaxy to see your true nature? Jisoo smiled sadly. We hoped it would never happen. We planned for the possibility, but we hoped we could stay hidden forever. Now that we're exposed, we have to live with it. The galaxy will never see us the same way again. Is that good or bad? Both, Jisoo said. We'll be more isolated now. Other species will fear us. But maybe that fear will prevent the next Krell. Maybe knowing that humanity will respond to genocide will make some would-be tyrant think twice. And if it doesn't, then they'll learn the same lesson the Krell did, Jisoo said quietly. That there are some lines you don't cross. That there are some beings you don't hurt. And that humanity remembers. Across the station, Captain Tae-won gathered his crew. We're returning to Earth for refit. Then we'll resume our normal duties: exploration, diplomacy, cultural exchange. The war is over. Will it ever feel normal again? Lieutenant Daeho asked. Now that everyone knows? Tae-won considered this. No, but that's okay. Normal was comfortable, but it was also a lie. This is honest. We're still the same people who make music and write poetry. We're just also the people who will fight to protect what matters. Both are true. Colonel Hai-jin met with her officers. The Krell survivors will face trial. We've handed over all evidence to the Council justice system. Some of you wanted harsher punishment. I understand that. But we're not executioners. We're protectors. Once the threat is neutralized, we let justice take its course. What if they escape? One officer asked. What if they rebuild? Then we'll stop them again, Hai-jin said simply. That's the burden we've accepted. We can never go back to being ignorant. The galaxy knows what we are now. So we have to be worthy of that knowledge. Dr. Seung-min remained on the Lumerous homeworld, helping rebuild. Young-soo worked beside him, coordinating the massive reconstruction effort. Human engineers and volunteers from dozens of species worked together to restore what the Krell had destroyed. Do you think it's strange? Young-soo asked. That the same hands that destroyed the Krell fleet are now planting gardens? Seung-min smiled. No, that's what makes us human. We can do both. We can rage and nurture, destroy and create, fight and heal. We're not simple creatures. We're complicated, contradictory, and capable of anything we choose to be. A Lumerous child approached them, her glow brightening slightly. She handed Young-soo a small flower she had. 6 months later, the galaxy had settled into a new normal. Human ships patrolled key sectors, their presence both reassuring and intimidating. The Council Security Directorate was operational, with humans training representatives from 15 species in defensive tactics and crisis response. The Krell survivors faced justice. The trials were public, broadcast across the galaxy. The evidence was overwhelming: hundreds of hours of footage, thousands of testimonies, clear documentation of planned genocide. The verdicts were unanimous. The Krell leadership received life sentences. Their military infrastructure remained dismantled. But something unexpected happened. Some species began to study humanity with new interest. Not out of fear, but curiosity. They wanted to understand how a species could be both predator and protector. Ambassador Jisoo gave a lecture at the Council's Educational Center. The hall was packed with students from dozens of worlds. "You want to know the secret?" she asked. "There is no secret. We're exactly what we appear to be, a species that contains contradictions. We're violent and peaceful. We're selfish and selfless. We're capable of terrible cruelty and incredible compassion. The key is that we choose which parts to express." A young Friend student raised a tentacle. "But how do you choose? How do you know when to be the predator and when to be the protector?" Jisoo thought about this. "We ask ourselves questions. Is someone being hurt? Are the victims helpless? Have we tried all peaceful solutions? Can we stop the harm without causing more harm than necessary? If the answers lead us to action, we act. But we always try peace first. Violence is our last choice, not our first. Doesn't it feel good to fight?" Another student asked. "We saw the recordings. Your pilots were laughing." "Yes," Jisoo admitted. "Our bodies are designed for it. The adrenaline, the focus, the teamwork, it activates ancient instincts that feel satisfying. That's the dangerous part. That's why we train so hard to control it. Because if we let ourselves enjoy violence too much, we become the crow. We become the predators we're supposed to protect against." Captain Taewon resumed his exploration duties, but his ship was different now. The Quiet Dawn no longer hid its capabilities. Other species knew what it could do, and that knowledge changed every interaction. Some species welcomed them eagerly, happy to have powerful protectors nearby. Others were nervous, watching the humans carefully. A few requested that human ships stay out of their territory. Taewon accepted all of it. "We knew this would happen," he told his crew. "We traded comfort for honesty. Some people will always fear power, even when it's used for good. That's their right." Lieutenant Daeho disagreed. "But we're trying to help. Why can't they see that?" "Because power is frightening," Taewon explained. "Especially power like ours. We can destroy fleets in hours. We can dismantle governments in weeks. Even if we promise to only use that power for good, people will worry. What if we change our minds? What if we decide someone else deserves punishment? That fear is reasonable. So what do? We prove ourselves over time," Taewon said. "We respond only to clear threats. We submit to council oversight. We train others to protect themselves. We show through actions, not words, that we can be trusted." Colonel Haijin worked with the new security force, teaching tactics and strategy. Her students came from peaceful species who had never fought wars. Some struggled with even basic combat concepts. "Why do we need to learn this?" a Vreen trainee asked. "You humans are already protecting us." Haijin looked at him seriously. "Because we won't always be here. Because you need to protect yourselves. And because power should be distributed, not concentrated. If only humans can fight, then everyone else depends on us. That's not healthy. You need your own protectors." She demonstrated a defensive maneuver, her movements precise. "Besides, you have advantages we don't. Your species can sense electrical fields. Use that. Build tactics around your strengths, not ours. Don't try to be human warriors. Be Vreen warriors." The concept slowly took root. Other species began developing their own defense forces, adapted to their unique abilities. Humans advised but didn't command. The galaxy was learning to protect itself. Dr. Sung-min achieved something remarkable on the Lumerous homeworld. Working with survivors and volunteers, he helped establish new settlements in safer locations. The population was a fraction of what it had been, but it was growing. Lumerous children played in reconstructed gardens, their glow bright with hope. A Lumerous elder approached him one evening. Our people have decided something. We want to learn to fight. Sungmin was surprised. Your species has no history of violence. Fighting goes against your nature. So did dying helplessly, the elder said quietly. We don't want to become warriors like humans, but we want to be able to protect our children if someone comes again. Can you teach us? Sungmin contacted Youngsu, who had become an expert in non-violent defense. Together, they developed a program for the Lumerous, not to make them killers, but to give them options. Warning systems, defensive barriers, evacuation procedures, and yes, some basic weapons training for volunteers. You're helping them change, an observer commented. Is that right? To alter their culture like this? Youngsu shook his head. We're not changing them. They're adapting to reality. The galaxy is dangerous. Pretending otherwise killed 80% of their species. Now they're choosing to survive. That's not wrong. That's evolution. Back on Earth, humanity debated its new role. Some citizens were proud of their military success. Others worried about becoming too focused on war. The government balanced both perspectives, maintaining the military but also investing heavily in arts, sciences, and cultural programs. A human philosopher appeared on news broadcasts across the galaxy. We revealed ourselves to stop a genocide. That was right. But we must never let the warrior become all we are. We must remember that we chose civilization over violence. The predator is a tool we use when necessary, not an identity we embrace. The message resonated. Humans continued to patrol and protect, but they also continued to create. Human orchestras toured the galaxy. Human scientists collaborated with alien researchers. Human teachers worked in schools across dozens of worlds. 1 year after the Krell incident, High Arbiter Quinmal called Ambassador Jisoo to a private meeting. I want to discuss humanity's future in the Council, Quinmal said. Your species has upheld every commitment. You've responded to 3 humanitarian crises with measured force. You've trained security personnel from 8 species. You've submitted to every oversight review. You've proven yourselves responsible. Thank you, Arbiter. But I wonder, Quinmal continued, are you happy with this role? Does humanity regret revealing itself? Jisoo considered the question carefully. We regret that it was necessary. We wish the Krell had never attacked the Lumerous. We wish we could have remained the friendly species who brought art and music. But no, we don't regret our choice. The Lumerous survivors are alive because we acted. That matters more than our comfort. Even though some species fear you now. Even men, Jisoo said. Fear is better than helplessness. If our presence makes tyrants think twice, if knowing we'll respond prevents the next genocide, then being feared is a price worth paying. Quinmal studied her. You've changed the galaxy, Ambassador. Not just by stopping the Krell, but by showing us that species can evolve beyond their nature without losing it entirely. You're dangerous, yes, but you're dangerous by choice, not compulsion. That distinction matters. I hope other species can see that. They will, Quinmal assured her. Time will prove it. Every crisis you handle with restraint, every threat you neutralize without excess force, every innocent you protect, these actions will build trust. You've shown us your worst. Now show us your best. Jisoo returned to Earth for a brief visit. She walked through a park where children played, completely unaware of the battles fought in their name. She listened to street musicians, watched artists paint, observed people living normal, peaceful lives. This was what they fought for. Not glory or power or fear. They fought so that humans could continue to be humans, complicated, creative, contradictory beings who chose beauty over brutality most of the time. Captain Taewon met her there. Thinking about the future? Always, Jisoo said. We can't go back to what we were. But we can build something new. We can be the species that protects without dominating, that fights without losing our humanity, that remembers our predator past without being defined by it. That's a difficult balance. Yes, but humans are good at difficult things. We walked to every corner of our planet before we invented the wheel. We built civilizations in deserts and jungles and frozen wastelands. We survived ice ages and plagues and our own worst instincts. This is just another challenge. Tae-won smiled. What do you think humanity will be remembered for? The species that destroyed the crow, or a species that saved the Lumerus? Both, Jisoo said. And maybe that's perfect. Maybe the galaxy needs to remember both versions of us. The predator and the protector. The warrior and the artist. The species that can do terrible things, but chooses to do good things instead. They watch the sunset together, Earth's golden light painting the sky. Somewhere in space, human ships patrolled the darkness. Somewhere on the Lumerous homeworld, gardens grew again.